going to talk today to my very special friend and guest, Elan Lambert, about veterans. How do we say thank you? How do we ever say thank you? And thank you, Elan herself is a veteran, a Navy veteran. I'm going to give her a more formal introduction in just a moment. But as we think about all the things going on in the world right now, I think of all the veterans. My father was a veteran. I have many, many family members who are veterans. And in fact, most recently, well, I have a current family service member. I have more than one. I have two now that I think about it. They're joining the armed forces all the time to take care of all of us and protect our freedoms. How do we say thank you? That's the main reason I wanted Elan to come today and talk about all the exciting things going on right here in Salem. Elan is involved in so many things, and your resume is so full. Where to begin? Elan has been a veterans advocate since 2008, and she is known as the go-to person for veterans issues and advocacy in Oregon. She's built up a fantastic networking network of anybody and everybody who would be involved in any way, shape, or form with Veterans Affairs. As I mentioned, Elan is a Navy veteran herself and is the project director for West Care Foundation for the Rural Veterans Coordination Pilot Program. That is a mouthful, and Elan will talk about that in just a moment. Excuse me. West Care was, excuse me, one of only 5 agencies in the entire United States awarded the Rural Veterans Coordinated Pilot, in which I know she's going to spend a lot of time talking about that. Elan was formerly the the court coordinator for the Marion County Veterans Treatment Court. She is a founding member of its Community Advisory Council beginning in 2011, which helped to develop the program and protocol for veterans and service members involved in the criminal justice system in Marion County. She is a board member for Partnership for Veterans at Risk, an Oregon nonprofit that provides resources and advocacy assistance for veterans and service members who are at risk and/or involved in the criminal justice system. And that, too, is a mouthful, and I know you can talk about that. And Elan chairs the Marion County Veterans Task Force, which I had the pleasure to serve on and got to know Elan as a county commissioner, and my interest in moving veterans issues forward in conjunction with Marion County, or rather that Marion County could really be an advocate and be a strong supporter of these many programs. So there's more to Elan's resume, and she'll get into that herself because I'm anxious to just get you to talk about this. Go ahead and begin with this West Care Foundation and this pilot project. That's huge. It's a huge issue. It's a huge project, and it's so important to local veterans.
Well, as you said, it's one of 5 agencies across the United States that were awarded through the VA Office of Rural Health the money for a 2-year grant to see what are some of the best ways to be able to provide rural veterans with health care, with the resources they need, everything that they need, where it's much easier in a like in Salem or Portland or Medford or wherever to get those resources because they're close by. But when you start getting down into the rural areas, it's much harder to get those services or get to those services. And so this pilot program is a demonstration grant that at the end of those 2 years, reports will be made and will be made to Congress, and then hopefully they will fund to do this across the United States. So I'm very honored to have been asked to head this project for West Care. So the counties are Tillamook County and Umatilla County in Oregon, and then in Washington it's Lewis County, and then Benton Franklin counties together. So basically have 4 what we call navigators who are sort of the boots on the ground, and they're all veterans themselves. And so to be able to work with the veterans, to be able to work with their family members, to assist them in getting the benefits that they earned. And I think that's one of the points that we try and get veterans to understand. And there's a lot of confusion for veterans, female veterans. People think if they didn't serve in combat that they're not a vet, which is not true. Is that basically there's different definitions in Oregon for that. The federal has a definition, state, and then just some of the other programs define. So what we look at is we don't care what your discharge status was. As long as you put on a uniform, you served, we will assist you. So it is getting the, so this has been a startup program. So once you get the money, then you've got to go find office space and find the people and all that, which has been an interesting process in itself and enjoyable. So I've got great people on the ground, but it's also connected with the Lines for Life, the military helpline, and there's actually a specific number for this. This grant is called Home Base, at least that's what we've called it. And so it's like home base to help you find all the things that you need. And so we have the boots on the ground with the navigators. Then we have the 24/7 telephone line with Lines for Life, for the military helpline. And then the website we're just working on now is getting that up, which will have all resources on it. So it's really more of a high-tech wraparound type of services where if somebody, say in Tillamook County, is working with Nathan, who's the navigator there, and is having a problem on a weekend, then they know to call the Lines for Lifeline so that they can wrap around them again 24/7. And then we've worked it so the people on the phone and our boots on the ground are able to communicate, one through the software that we have, and also sending messages back and forth and talking to each other on the phone. So we just feel like you're going to have the 24/7 assistance that you need, whether it's for a crisis, whether it's for resources, whether it's for a family member, whoever it might be, your children, parents. So we're working with everyone. And so part of the issues that we really look at are, does somebody need housing? Do they need mental health care? Do they need medical care? Do they need food? Do they, what's going on? Do they just need transportation to an interview? So we assist in all those different areas to help the veterans get what they need. But going back to the idea of who's a veteran, a lot of women veterans do not consider themselves veterans, which is unfortunate because I served during the Vietnam era, was not in Vietnam. There were about 7,500 women in Vietnam. There's been about over 250,000 women now in Iraq and Afghanistan and the other issues that are going on. So, and women who were not supposedly in combat situations, but they were, and so they have a lot of the same, issues. One of the issues that I talk about, and it's very difficult for a lot of people to hear, is military sexual trauma. And it is an issue, depending on whose statistics you're looking at, but it happens to both men and women. And I know when I was the court coordinator in the Marion County Veterans Treatment Court, we had both male and female. And one of the things that I have found in working with vets over the last number of years, I worked with over 180 vets in the criminal justice system by myself before the court began forming, and worked with Judge Ochoa, particularly retired Judge Ochoa. And so what you look at is if somebody is drinking, drugging, really medicating themselves with drugs or alcohol, and they get some form of treatment and then it's still not happening, there's usually something under that, and a lot of times it's been the sexual trauma, whether it's in the military or previous in their life. And so it is one of the issues that I talk about, even though it's uncomfortable for a lot of people to hear it. And I share my story all, wherever I speak, but I also experienced military sexual trauma, so I know what it can do. And for me, it was I got out of the military, didn't want to have anything to do with the military, the government, anything. I was so angry and it's such a deep soul wound that I wanted nothing to do with anything. And I personally drank and drugged and did all of those things trying to feel better. And finally, I had a complete breakdown. And I personally was on the psych unit at the Portland VA for almost a week in 1997. Very difficult experience, yet it was the best thing that happened to me because then I was able to start getting help.
It's what had to happen in order for you to go the right direction.
Right,
yes,
and I knew my life was messed up, but I didn't know there was such a thing as called PTSD. I didn't know, what all that post-traumatic stress looks like, how you experience it, and how you are in the world with it. And so once I did that, was there, then I was told that I could go to the vet center. And I was in Portland area at the time. And so I went to the vet center and got counseling. And I will praise the vet centers for anybody to go to. And if you've had military sexual trauma in the military, and even no matter what your discharge is, believe you can still get treated there. And so it's one resource that is really wonderful in all the places that I've connected in with the vet center. But the idea with what we're doing with this particular grant is to make sure that people are not falling through the cracks, that they understand that they're vets, that they understand that they have earned these rights to these benefits, to have that health care depending on when they served and how long they served, to be able to have the home loans, to be able to have many, even the getting the license plates and getting your I think it's being able to go camping for a lesser fee and all of those things. And you earn those rights, and particularly just being around people. And what happens if you don't get the assistance you need? We saw them in the criminal justice system a lot. They could end up in Judge Aiken's court by having a traffic ticket. And sometimes that was actually the beginning for them of getting into the criminal justice system. Driving too fast is a problem. So what Judge Aiken does is if she finds out that somebody is a vet, she will stop and require them to call me so that I can help guide them, if you will, into where they might want to go. But when I was court coordinator, and I think she still does this, is that she requires them to actually go visit and sit through the Veterans Court. So that they can see if you're not getting the help you need now, you may end up over here. And so, there were some pretty intense times for people to end up in the criminal justice system when you've got people who are decorated troops and who find themselves in jail or in going to court and having to stand there and admit what they've done when they've got a Bronze Star. So it's just been a phenomenal experience for me to be able to start working on this and just start working with vets and watch this growing and flowing, or what's happened in this county with the courts, which is now Judge Day, and all of the things that are happening with that. So one of the pieces that is happening, so for this grant, that's what we're doing. We're working in the rural grant, but one of the things that's actually happening in Salem is that the YWCA had the Salem Outreach Shelter, which when the court went from the year of the actual docket, where every vet was heard, the case was heard by the same judge, and was heard by, or had the same prosecuting attorney and the same two defense attorneys that you actually worked with the vet docket. When we had the sort of celebration, then we went into the court, which meant that we got a grant, and I actually got paid for doing it, and it paid for other things. But we did that. My name as a court coordinator was in the Statesman Journal, and so I got a phone call from a gentleman who said, "Can you do vets need like a homeless, homeless shelter?" And I'm thinking to myself, "Yeah, we have vets who are homeless." So myself and the mentor coordinator, Steve Coyan, he and I went over to the shelter and we were looking around. And interestingly enough, 2 weeks before that, Steve and I had been saying, gosh, you know what we could do if we had a shelter, if we had something that we could, place where people could be, we could do this, we could do that. And so we're walking through this building, which is 10,000 square feet, 15 bedrooms, which could house 30 people, 2 to a room. So we're walking through it. Steve and I are very excited, saying, oh, we could do this, we could do that. So finally, one of the gentlemen that was with us said, could you really do something with this building? And I said, for vets, and I said, yes. And he said, then we're deeding it to you free and clear. And I had to turn to him and say, you what?
I remember.
You what?
Yes.
And it was about a week that before I could talk
shock.
without crying, you know. I mean, it was just so overwhelming that we were deeded this building, this facility. So we knew, as Partnership for Veterans at Risk, as it was being deeded to as a nonprofit, we knew that as a small nonprofit, we could not do this on our own, and particularly to get grants or government grants to be able to pay for the operations and everything for the shelter, that we would have to partner with a larger nonprofit. So I had met people from West Care and Foundation, which is actually headquartered in Las Vegas, but they are in 17 states and 2 territories, U.S. territories. And they have been around for 40 years, very heavily supportive of veterans. The president CEO is actually a 2-time Vietnam vet. The chief operating officer was in the Army. The chief of staff is actually a female retired officer. I mean, it's just everywhere. They have their own facility department, and the senior vice president who heads that is a Vietnam vet. I mean, so it's just very supportive of
helping veterans.
Veterans helping veterans,
Yeah.
and they've been very wonderful. They have programs around the United States in different places for veterans, and so we started having meetings, and we probably met with them, I don't know, over a period of about a year, for about 7 or 8 times, and introduced them to the community. And the thing I really like about West Care is they do not go into a community unless they're asked, and they do not come in and do the same thing that other people are doing. And so it's a very honoring nonprofit to work with, and so. So we've partnered. We now have the shelter. It is, like I said, 15 bedrooms, has a commercial kitchen, which eventually I have a chef who would like to do a culinary school in there to teach veterans to work in the food industry. So we are still working on operating funding and getting the buildings or the bedrooms and everything. We're going to have a painting party on February 21st and February 28th because it's, like I said, 15 bedrooms, but also has offices and then this kitchen.
And then there's some what might be referred to as a couple of like rooms.
There's a big day room,
is that a good way to call it?
big community
Living room,
activity room,
community
really.
activity,
And we've been donated a beautiful piano. We're being donated a pool table. It's the room that have TVs and some computers in them. And then we have another room that is a classroom that's going to have 4 or 5 computer stations in it. So, because this is going to be a whole life program.
Well, as the Veterans Transitional Housing and
Resource Center, yes.
So, question then, certainly individuals will live here.
Right.
But people will also just go to the Resource Center.
Yes,
right?
they can come to the Resource Center to be able to get the information that they need. We also have one of the offices in the building is going to be a community shared office where we if the vet center needed to see somebody and they wanted to come down there, they could do it, or one of the housing places, or just so that we have the ability for the providers to come to there rather than always having to go to them. And so we'll be doing that. We'll be holding classes. Again, my vision for it is that it's a whole life. So it's not going to be a place where somebody can just come, a vet can just come for a night or 2. This is a program, and this is a transition program going from being homeless into, when you leave there, having either if you're able to work and want to work, then having a job, doing community service, or education, going back to school, whatever it might be. We're going to do life skills. We're going to do faith-based if they want to. It's not obviously not going to be a requirement. I've got somebody donating some gym equipment, so we're going to do that. We want to do the movement, the arts, the Tai Chi, the yoga, some martial arts. We would love to have a couple of the assisted dogs. They're living there so that we can have the animal therapy and with the piano, the music therapy.
Music therapy
I want to
is
have
great, yeah.
I want to have guitars. Somebody said they're going to donate a sax. You know, I want to be able to have the vets to be able to have the expressive arts, and because we know that they're healing arts. And so we also want to have like a kiln out on the, has a backyard. We're going to have raised beds for growing vegetables and fruits so that vets that like to do garden can be doing that. So again, whole life, whole picture. So they will be moving, and the program will be individualized to each person. We'll do assessments when they come in, see what they need, where they are, what we need to have. So that
you mentioned that they wouldn't just stay there a night or two and be moving on. So what would be a normal amount of, and I know it would vary, but generally speaking, a minimum, maximum
what
time?
we're talking about is anywhere from like 6 to 18 months, depending on the person and what they need. The exciting thing to me about this is getting the community involved, and one of the ideas that I had, and then another woman had shared with me the same idea, so we went ahead and did this. But for an example, the Daughters of the American Revolution have sponsored 2 rooms. So what that means is that they will pay for the mattresses. There's specific mattresses for bed bugs type of things, so we're getting them through WestCare. But so they're paying for the mattresses, they're paying for the bed linens, the towels, the area rugs, the drapes, stuff to put on the walls, and we're naming the rooms instead of room 1, 2, 3 or ABC. It's actually named after trees. So we've started having a number of tree names
there
now.
are at least 15.
Yeah, right. And so the Daughters of the American Revolution have 2. Some of the individuals have them. The Disabled American Veterans are doing this. Vietnam Veterans of America. I don't want to leave out anybody.
Do you have some rooms available for adoption?
We do. I think I have 9 of them sponsored, adopted out. So we have we definitely have about 7 more.
What kind of a commitment? So people listening today maybe they'd step up. What generally what kind of a
what I'm
commitment
kind of
would this
looking
be?
at is I tell people that I'm looking at the beginning commitment is about $500. It's about $125 for the mattress, but you got 2 in the room, and then the linens and the towels and area rugs and so I tell people around $500. The other thing is that the groups that are sponsoring or adopting these rooms, what we're doing is that so when the vet's in that room leaves, they take the linens and the towels with them. So then that group that sponsored that room will buy new ones.
Yeah.
And so it's an ongoing process. The sheriff's department wants a room. I'm just so thrilled
That's
about
great.
that.
That's
and
fantastic.
So we have 8 of them right now, and so we have a few more people want to do that.
Besides sponsoring or adopting a room, what other items are on your wish list that you'd like people to
Musical instruments, guitars, harmonicas, like somebody said, a saxophone. Being able to provide opportunities for the vets to go places. I really would like to, on my wish list is to have 2 vans donated so that we are able to take the vets to different places, to appointments, and so that they have a sense of being able to get out and do things. I want this to be a home. That's one of my real inner desires and wants and seeing that this is going to be a home. I would love to have one of those electric fireplaces that's fairly big put in one of the areas in the community room. So there's just that sense of home. And
Are you looking for any used furniture? Do you prefer new furniture? Do you need lamps? Do you need rugs? Do you need games? Do you need
games, books? All the furniture is going to be new to start this with. The furniture that was in there, the Daughters of the American Revolution came in and they helped us get it out of there by selling. And we had one, to me, exciting kind of a periphery thing of how this has benefited somebody else or something else. One of the gentlemen who came to buy one of the dressers actually is opening some kind of a pet facility, and he came and took all of the mattresses for the animals.
Wow.
And so that was, just touched another area just by doing that. So that was exciting. So we want to do all new. So if somebody wants to, in the community area, we need sofas. We have some chairs. We have a round table, but games, books. We do need some, flat screen TVs. Right now we have the huge old, chunky ones that are very, very big. So flat screen TVs. The commercial kitchen, it is a commercial kitchen, and it has dishes, but they're not. There's not a lot. So if somebody has sets of dishes or pieces of, dishware, silverware, that kind of things. The kitchen or the dining area right now is one of the most awful yellow colors I've ever seen, and so what we want to do. I talked to a chef, and he said to paint it white for the cleanliness, but also blue in there. So his suggestion was turn it into like an outdoor cafe.
Oh, how
and
fun.
so that's what we want to do. We want to have mural painted on the walls in there. So if somebody's a professional artist, that can do that kind of thing, and do maybe some of them in the rooms.
So you really could. We're going to run out of time here in just a moment. Almost anything would be appreciated, and people could call you to say, I have this or I have that, or what can I donate, or money. And
money, definitely money, because then we can purchase what is needed.
So Elan, give your contact information again here, so before we're cut off, and where can people get a hold of you?
Okay, so it's 503-364-1728. 503-364-1728. You can also come by and say hello over at the shelter. It's 2933 Center Street Northeast, and it's Unit 2, which is around the back. Catholic Services is in the front. We're around the back.
Just drive around
Just
the
drive
back.
around the back. We'll be happy to show people. So
lots of ways to say thank you to veterans.
Yes, and again, this will be not just the veterans, but we're touching families, their families and children, that kind of thing. So we want to, I think to say thank you is to know that people care what happens to these vets, even if they served 40 years ago like I did.
Right.
Or even longer ago than that.
So. Much more to talk about. We'll have you come back.
Great.
Thank you, Elan Lambert.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.